Hey everyone. Now, line weight variation is something that's very important in pen and ink drawing. It's something you actually need to get a handle on if you want to be able to create really dynamic drawings. Now, in this video, I'm going to share with you some simple tips and simple exercises that you can use to create this effect using a simple ballpoint pen. So of course, thanks so much to everyone who has supported my book, Pen and Ink Drawing, a Simple Guide. It really means a lot. And if you've taken the time to share the word about it, or refer it to your friends, or leave a review or comment or feedback on Amazon, Goodreads, Instagram, Facebook, wherever, thanks so much. It really means a lot. Now first, when we say line weight variation, it simply refers to just varying the thickness of our lines. Pretty simple. Usually the way we create line weight variation depends on what we're drawing with. So if it's with a brush or brush pen or fountain pen or dip pen, we simply just vary the pressure on the point, and that will actually vary the thickness. Now, if we're using a technical drawing pen like a Pigma Micron, we would generally just use different point sizes, since generally a single point may not give us enough variation. However, a ballpoint pen is really cool because we can not only vary the thickness and thinness of our lines, but we can also vary how bold, our light, and value our lines are. So a really good exercise is to draw about 3 distinct groups of lines. Actually, if you find that too challenging, 2 groups are fine as well. But the idea is to create lines that are restricted to being thin in one group and really thick in another. And the key is to keep them consistently thick or consistently thin. It doesn't really matter what you draw, actually. Even if they're just hatch marks or cross hatching or scribbles for that matter, it's just a matter of trying to control the amount of pressure you put on the pen and make your lines consistent. Next is to vary weight along a single line. So along one line, you will vary from thick to thin and vice versa. So you can start with straight lines and then eventually curves, and then you can combine them and gradually make your curves a little bit more complex. Lastly, you should practice applying them to drawing simple objects and forms with respect to structure and light and shadow. So this means we will use thin and really light lines in areas of light, and use thick and bold lines in areas of shadow and mass. So this applies to the interior of the forms as well as the contour. So even if you just have an outline drawing, you should still be able to convey mass and weight by varying the thickness of your lines. So for example, in areas where the form touches the surface that it's resting on, there you will make your lines really thick and bold. And areas that are closer to the top, where we assume light generally applies, that's where we'll make our lines really light and thin. So here's a photo of a nose that has distinct areas of light and shadow, and it will allow me to give you some tips on how you can use lines that are thin in certain areas and thick in certain areas, and also lines that go from thick to thin and vice versa. Now, this raises an important point about choosing reference images, especially that you're going to be using for shading. And the reason is, it's very important that you have images that are clear. You see, when you look at this, you can clearly see areas of light and areas of shadow. Now, the cool thing about this is that being that it's a rounded form, there are areas that are in between. So you can see in here, there are areas that are receiving light, and it's not really in shadow, but it's not receiving as much light as here. So that gives you a lot of practice in creating transition, gradual shift from light to shadow, which is very important for increasing your ability to shade really well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to treat this area as in being the area that's distinctly in light. I'm going to treat this underplane that's facing down as an area in shadow, and I'm going to treat this side plane as an area that's somewhat in light and somewhat in shadow. So this is going to be like a mid-value area, and it's very important that you make those clear decisions before you actually start shading, so that way you don't get lost or confused in the process. Okay everyone, so I hope you were able to see how I varied my lines as I moved from areas of shadow to areas of light, and also how I try to keep them consistent with respect to the different areas of light and shadow. So I hope you liked this video, and if you did, remember to give the video a like, and also subscribe if you haven't already. And again, thanks for watching, keep practicing, and I'll see you in the next video.